This is the Thinking Man's Templar, where we say one red pill life far outweighs a million blue pill existences. And also where the soldiers can come in from the war, remove their armor, drop their weapons for change, and have conversations with like minds. I am at your service. Today I want to talk about male shame, shaming men, and just shame in general, and how it cripples the masculine principle. When I was younger, I idolized my uncle. He was a god to me. And when he died at 24, I didn't cry. I fought with every ounce of my being to hide my tears because I was ashamed of my emotions. I was ashamed of the grief I felt. Because in my mind, I was told that boys don't cry. I've watched people die in front of my eyes on 2 occasions. The other time, we were at a party. I was a teenager. Me and my friends was at a party. And my friend Dwight had fell asleep because we were drinking. And someone thought it'd be a good idea to spray him in the face with air freshener while he was asleep. My friend Dwight woke up, proceeded to beat the crap out of this kid, and that was that. So we thought. We leave the party, it's in the middle of the night, maybe 2, 1 in the morning. It's a summer night, so no one's really rushing to go home. Everybody's kind of playing in the front of the house. Remember those house parties, talking to girls, carrying on, before we made the troop home. Because I remember we had walked some distance to get there, like a town over. That's what we used to do back in the day. We would just meet up and just walk places, 5, 6, 7 deep. Maybe have a bottle or a couple of blunts. Smoke, walk, talk shit, joke. Shit guys do. You know, ventures. It was like 16, 17. So we're outside this party, and my friend Dwight, you know, he's standing a little ways from us, talking to someone. And the gentleman who he fought came back and had a gun, AK-47. And they killed my friend Dwight on the grass. He died in front of all of us. I watched the life leave his body. I watched his eyes. I watched the fear. I watched his body quit on him. I watched his eyes die out. I watched him die. I watched his brother cry. I watched some of the toughest guys I knew cry like children. And it brought back to their boyhood. I didn't cry. I was more in shock. I was more frozen. I was more disturbed. When I saw my uncle die, he died from a seizure from a cocaine overdose. And when he fell out in front of my room door, it didn't look real to see someone's body convulse like that before. I didn't know what I was looking at. I was so young. That was my first dance with death. And death introduced itself to me. And when my friend Dwight died, I was more hurt than grieving. But for some reason, I didn't want to cry. And that kind of feeling of shame that's instilled in young boys, that tells them if they have their emotions, that makes them weak. It makes you a sucker, lame. You know, women will often say that men who cry turn them off. We go through our lives fighting with shame. That's why to this day, it's one of the main tactics used by women in order to subdue our talking points, is to try to shame us, call us ad hominem names, or say we're gay, or we don't like women, or we don't get sex. They put such a high value on their sex. It's quite laughable if you think about it. They're just confirming their whoredom to me. But shame is something that men deal with all their lives. Rejection from women gives you a feeling of shame, a sense of less worthiness when you thought about it in your old mind state. Because you put this woman at such a high value, when she turned you down, you felt shame. You felt ashamed for even making an attempt to speak to her. But now we know that men are the prize, but we're not above shame. See, the world needs to shame the male principle, because keeping it subdued and subjected, it makes men afraid of who they are. It makes men afraid of being exposed for not being perfect as the world assumes you are, because you don't have washboard abs and a body like you've been in the gym for years. It makes you ashamed, even though it's hot. You go to the beach, you don't want to take off your shirt because you're ashamed of what people might think of you. Shame is what keeps a lot of men from pursuing their dreams. A lot of men might want to be doctors or scientists, especially growing up in the poor, impoverished neighborhoods of the black community. A lot of men did have the potential to be engineers and great thinkers, but because of shame, they were ashamed of their own intelligence. Women often put down men who are intelligent. They ignore the intelligent men. And men become ashamed of their own intellectual prowess to where they won't pursue academia. Not only are they not supported in the neighborhood for their academic prowess, we only prop up the children who have athletic ability, not mental ability. So that would create a window of shame for a child, because he looks at all the jocks and all the athletes. They get all the attention, all the money, all the accolades, but they never hear about men with intelligence and what great things they've brought to the world. I was ashamed of my intellectual properties. I was very smart. I went to science and technology programs every summer as a boy, and I looked forward to it. I didn't really care to be running around doing anything during the summer except being at these colleges learning about science and technology. It was an advanced class. It was advanced students from all over New York. We would all go there and sit in class some more during the summer. And I would come back advanced in all my science classes, basically ahead of the teacher, almost, where I barely had to even study because I was already taught most of the things over the summer. I was in advanced science classes. I just had a knack for investigation and things out of factual science, earth science, you know, the stars and space, astronomy, engineering, computer science. It was all in my realm. But I was ashamed of being looked at like a nerd or lame, because the only cool thing to do was to play basketball, even though I was pretty good. Even though I never had anyone to properly coach. See, Us men, especially the black men, who grow up in these neighborhoods, we find out early that our talents and our gifts are often left to fester and die. We never have anyone to push us. See, that's the importance of having fathers. They instill confidence in boys in a world where every angle is set up to create a feeling of shame, to isolate and subdue what greatness lies inside of you. Your father builds up your courage. Just like Truth As I Know It says, fathers teach their children to slay dragons. I thought that was a beautiful quote. And he's right. So many things I could have done, but I never had anyone to recognize that greatness in me as a young boy. See, your father will see these talents in you. He will see your priviness for science or reading or anything, sports, whatever. And then it's your father's job to help you conquer that and have courage to build up and work at your talents instead of depending on your talents to get you somewhere. The masculine principle will teach younger men how to work at their talents. But growing up in a matriarchal society, black men are often shamed for their talents. That may give them an edge. See, nobody wants to see black men fully actualized, initiated. They want us to constantly be at war with feelings of shame, feelings of doubt, feelings of being insignificant, dealing with the feelings of being vulnerable and not having any protection because your father never was there. Because the male ego, the male emotion center is very fragile when a boy is young. It's a certain point when a boy can go either way. He can become an emotional wreck, almost effeminate like his mother, or he can become rigid and cold, callous, with no feeling about anything. If he isn't properly guided through these roller coasters of emotions that boys feel when they're trying to understand the masculine principle that is taking them from boyhood into manhood. See, these feelings can destroy a boy once, instead of feeling the confidence of being a man, it is replaced with the shame of becoming a man. See, a lot of young men were sexually abused by older women, older girls who would, see your private parts or ask to see them or forcefully see them and laugh at your underdeveloped penis or make you feel ashamed for what your body looks like. Make you ashamed because you're a boy and you have a child's penis. And laugh. I had a girl do that to me. They try to shame you because of your sexual prowess and you can't have sex for 2-3 hours to keep up with a harlot. They shame you for your penis size. But really it's just indicative that her vagina is blown open if she needs a 10-inch penis. You never hear a virgin complaining about dick size. Never forget that. You never hear a modest woman complaining about dick size. It's always the whores. See, shame is something that can destroy a man before he ever becomes a man. And now we see in the world, we have words like toxic masculinity, rape culture. It builds men up to be monsters. And imagine what a young man is feeling when he hears these words. He's becoming engulfed in shame. Especially in a matriarchal, effeminized world. He can only identify with the feminine principle and how the feminine principle views him as a man. He can't even view himself from the masculine point of view where he stands, because it was never initiated within him. It was only replaced with shame. The shame of his voice getting deeper, or his voice cracking, and people making fun of him as he becomes a man, or not having a mustache or a beard, not having a bunch of money in the bank when you're a young boy, even as a man. Even though we know you have to take care of yourself, not everybody is meant to be rich. And what you see what money does to a lot of people, do you even want to be rich and famous? Now women's standards have become so high, where a man damn near has to be a celebrity in some way, fashion or another, for women to take you truly serious. See, men don't walk around knowing that they're the prize, because they're ashamed of being who they are. Men are ashamed of their emotions. They're ashamed of loving. Being loved makes them feel uncomfortable, because they were always taught that it's weak to love someone, to love a woman, to allow a woman to love you. I can't count how many women I pushed away because of their love, or supposed love, or their version of love went against the pseudo-masculine principle that I developed for myself, that was basically smeared and perverted because I didn't know what being a real man was. I always thought being a man was being hateful and rigid, not being loving and sacrificial. Men start to believe that they don't deserve love. They don't deserve respect from women. But they're more in tune with being shamed. It starts at home, starts with your mothers. Your mother's emasculation of you when you're a boy. Using overbearing tactics to subdue your masculinity into fear. Because deep down, she knows once you became a certain size, you had to believe that she could dominate you. And that entailed and transferred into your relationships. The only time you were ever comfortable around a woman is when she was able to use shame and keep you submissive, because you're already broken by the shaming language of your mothers. And then you were further destroyed by the shaming language of these toxic women. We have men ashamed of their sexuality, ashamed for their sexual urges and hunger and desire for women, their sexual desire for more than one woman. You're shamed for that. You're shamed for the fact that you can possibly love 3 women in different ways, but still love them. You're shamed into only loving one, even though that might not be adequate for you. Some of us men got a lot of love to give, honestly. But these women are so selfish, they want it all for themselves, when most of them can't even handle it. Men are shamed from speaking their truth and being honest. Look at us on YouTube. We can't even be honest with ourselves, be honest with our brethren about what we go through. We're shamed from speaking about the things that affect us every day. Shaming men is what makes the world go round. And keeping women without shame is also what makes the world go round. Women have no shame. Women don't have a concept of shame. And when women feel shame, they automatically seem to shut down. They lose their minds. It's like throwing holy water on a vampire. Women avoid shame at all costs, but their number one weapon against a man is shame. Shaming his keenness, shaming his observational skills, his logic, his ability to put two and two together and connect dots on what is obviously right in front of him. These women put their dysfunction on display every day. And when you point it out, they shame you and say, what you see is not what you see. You're just gay. You just hate women. That's why you perceive it as that. You hate your mother. What a shame of man hating his mother. Because he perceives the dysfunction that is obviously in front of his eyes as it being exactly what it is. The weapon of shame. Shaming the male principal. Shaming the male. Shaming black men from pursuing intellectual pursuits and to only fall by the wayside and wanting to be rappers and football players and basketball players, trappers, dope boys. You're shamed for wanting to get good grades. They shame you for wanting to be smart and intelligent and having class and honor. I remember back in the day, you get beat up for wanting to be smart. They think you didn't know everything. You're a know-it-all, huh? You got advanced classes, nobody respects you. You get good grades, nobody respects you in the black community. How can we salvage a community that doesn't respect those who are on the path of being great? It's instilled in the children as well. I remember you being smart, you wouldn't even get girls back in the day. Girls wouldn't want nothing to do with you because you were intelligent and you were in smart classes. While these bitches were in remedial math and remedial science and remedial reading, they had the nerve to shame you for having intelligence. Because in their mind, they didn't care that they could barely read or do math and arithmetic or understand the concept of science and research and philosophy. Because all they knew, they had a golden vagina that would abscond them from all shame, all manners of reproach. They never even pursued to be intelligent. Men are shamed from showing their true feelings, even in times of grief and despair. Male suicide. I can't respect no man that kill himself. That's a weak man. We have the nerve to shame the deceased. Men that couldn't take the hell that they were given. We got to get over the fact and understand that this isn't natural. These hellish conditions. Men going unloved and unwanted and unappreciated and abused and used as a routine. That's not natural. Men losing their children in custody battles to women who aren't even worthy of being mothers full time, but having the court overlook all your great characteristics and your fatherly deeds as if it doesn't even matter. Just because you're a man, you're shamed out of fatherhood. You feel ashamed for being great. That's what they do to men. That's what they especially do to black men. They shame you from not wanting to be great. That's why we have so many mediocre black men. That's why I have so many mediocre black women who are happy with being just good enough not to rock the boat. Black people love shame. Sad, man. I remember my grandmother, man, even though she did so much for me, she was very tough. And I always remember her being very verbally harsh. And I always remember my mom being so passive. She had her moments, but she was mostly absent, you know? Like her heart wasn't in it. She was just kind of thrown in a situation and making the best of it. But she wasn't like 110% into motherhood, you know? It always seemed to be the burden of her life. Motherhood. So in turn, I was ashamed of being a child of someone, of being a son, because I felt like I was causing my mom stress and distress just for breathing. My mom would be asleep so much. I remember barely seeing my mom awake. She'd always be asleep, telling us to leave her alone. You know? Made me be ashamed of wanting to, you know, anything, wanting to eat something, ashamed of losing out. It's funny, you know, men are really taught to not reach their own potential. And women are almost trained to kill that fire inside of you before it gets too strong. Because women don't think about what it really takes to develop a man. They don't think about it because they don't care. The weaker the man, the better, you know? That's how this society thinks. And that's why women don't take the proper precautions to securing men for their sons. And someone brought it up that I said it in a previous video, and the question I posed, are mothers more loyal to their gender than they are to their own son's development? Because they never want to pick a strong, intelligent man of honor and character to help raise their boys. They want to have boys with the worst men, just so she can avoid accountability and the accountability and the shame that may come with having a man with standards of her behavior. And I always wondered that. It's like, how much can a mother love her child if she doesn't secure a father? If she doesn't secure someone to protect her children? Someone to protect her children from violence, molesters, predators. Protect her children from the world with a man's point of view. To protect their minds from the poison of society with the man's take on reality and his teaching and his wisdom. Why would you want your children to grow up in a world without such precious gifts? While most women complain about being single mothers, and they complain about how hard it is and how tough it is and how it's the hardest job in the world, well, why would you choose such a difficult path? And how much could you truly love your children if you didn't choose a proper father? I mean, this is just a question we can ask. We see all these women killing their children and abusing their children after the fact. They realize how tough it is, or they realize that they never were mother material. Just because a woman has reproductive organs doesn't mean she should be a mother. And that goes for some men too. But in this Western world, men are ashamed for their reproductive prowess. The fact that a man can populate a whole nation by itself in a lifetime if he so choose. But a man's reproductive prowess, his virility is shamed. Now, do I believe in men being Johnny Appleseeds and just dumping babies and every chick that'll let them? Nah, I don't believe that. I believe that's counterproductive and very dangerous and can cause a lot of problems. Your children miss out on a lot of things if they don't have the proper tools. You know, so many ways they shame men. It's to the point that men are choosing to opt out and walk away from society in general, because men have been told that they're not worthy of the proper respect and admiration that comes with being a man. Developing from a child into a man in this world without serious psychological disorders is damn near impossible. And the small group of men that find their way eventually find themselves torn apart by this society and its women who are at the helm of the society. It's very dark what men have to live, what men have to survive, what men have to make the best of, just to be considered a valuable part of society. You know, as a black man especially, like I said, you have to be damn near a celebrity to get properly respected by your counterparts in black society in general. You can't just be a man that's just taking care of his business. Our women say we don't build, and you know, we don't have enough for them. You know, they have their multiple degrees in their academics, but yet most of these women lack the common sense to even choose a proper mate. What does that say about you? And it's more detrimental for a woman to find a proper mate than it is for a man. This is her provision. This is her protection. Men don't need that. Men can survive on their own. Women need men way more than men need women. So I would consider you a fool to be a woman who hasn't understood the proper steps in choosing a mate, or even what it takes. But yet you try to shame us men into having standards into women that we don't want to deal with anymore. Because men don't want to deal with single mothers, you're going to shame them and say they're not real men. That shame word is a motherfucker. You got to watch that. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of being intelligent, being honorable, being a man of character that wants things out of life, but chose not to take the dope boy route to get it. Or decided you didn't want to rap or play basketball in order to obtain the things you wanted out of life. You're not with the in crowd. You're not with the cool kids. Because you choose to stay home and work on a business plan and go to the club and pretend to have money. You'd rather stay home and read or research or just be alone with your thoughts than go out chasing harlots and cheap liquor, drugs. Listen, my brothers, I'm at your service, and I'm here to tell you, you are great no matter what anybody says, what anybody tries to say to you, or what anyone has ever said to you. And I don't care if it's your own mother. You're going to have to come to grips with what some people have done to you without your knowledge. Trying to break your manhood, trying to subdue what's inside of you before you even got a chance to realize it. Anyone that has done this to you, you need to acknowledge that, man. You men have to look deep inside yourself and realize how many ways you were shamed from doing the things you love, being who you wanted to be. Women have all these terms, slut shaming and all this bullshit. They want to avoid shame so bad, man. But they can shame men for not having money, not having celebrity status, or an expensive vehicle, or living in a penthouse overpriced loft, or whatever the case. Not having some big cushy corporate executive job, like most black women always say. And being a blue collar man that likes to get in and get yours get in where you fit in. Nah. It's not good enough, see? Don't let anybody shame you from finding greatness in what is already there. And has always been there your whole life. And that's what the red pill is for. That's what the manosphere is for. That's what IBMOR and MGTOW and all these movements is for. To help men actualize what's great inside them without the validation of women. And being impervious to the shaming language of society, and especially women, to keep you in check. Keep you under their thumb. Keep your head down and keep your eyes down. Keep you from keeping your chin up and your chest out and walking with your shoulders back with confidence. Because when you do that, you force everyone else to bow. You force women to look down and divert their eyes. When you have a stern look in your face and you look people in the eyes and you speak with intent, you're the one that makes everybody else bow their heads and feel ashamed just by your mere presence alone and the confidence that you give off, you radiate. So carry yourself like this at all times and never let anybody shame you for what's truly in your heart. Be who you want to be. Live how you want to live. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Don't make people shame you for having the courage to try something that they didn't ever have the courage to do. So they're going to try to shame you out of it. Just like with this motorcycle riding. People always tell me, oh, you shouldn't do that. They try to shame you out of it. Oh, you must be going through midlife crisis. Because you don't have the courage to do it. Or you don't have the courage to pursue your dreams or change your career. Because you're scared of losing out on money. Or, I've been here 20, 30 years. I don't want to change. Even though you're miserable. They try to shame men from leaving toxic relationships. BOA said something like that in one of his live streams today about the heartbroken man. It's soul stirring what he was saying, and riveting. Men are shamed into not leaving toxic relationships just because they have children. You're not a real man if you leave your family. I'm not leaving my family. I'm leaving this woman. We'll do what we got to do. But I won't remain under the roof with this woman because it's going to be me or her. You got to save yourself. They shame you from seeking women outside of your race. Finding things attractive in other women. Finding things attractive in their appearance. They say you're color struck. And they try to shame you for just thinking a woman who isn't a dark-skinned black woman is attractive. You're color struck. More shaming. The number one tool of this society to keep men subdued is shaming them out of reaching their true potential. Shaming them from questioning what's going on in the world around them. Shame them from questioning the behaviors of the women that they're being forced to deal with on a daily basis, to have children with and marry and be in these relationships with. But you're shamed when you decide you rather walk away. You don't want to be bothered. When you decide that being alone is better than being in a toxic relationship with a toxic cantankerous banshee who's only looking to use you for what she wants and eventually discard you or destroy you. Or both. Men are literally walking away because they don't feel that this world has anything to offer them other than shame and shaming language. They're trying to keep them down. This is the thinking man's Templar. You are great. You have always been great. You are a master of masters, a king of kings. Never let anyone tell you different. I want you gentlemen to enjoy the rest of your week and look forward to every day and live it like it's your last, but also plan for the future. Peace. Cover your 6.